These lonely women banded together and created a little hate club, and they made up a bunch of stories, told a bunch of lies. Ultimately, it was and is nothing, really just jealousy.
So many things just hadn't happened yet at that level. Being doxxed, having trolls send me hate threats and death threats with my address on it, people pulling up old legal documents and zooming in on things to find information from the background and creating freaking fake screenshots.
Birth is the apex of intimacy, our connection to God. This is precisely why birth has had to be so desecrated and destroyed by the demonic power structures. There will always be people who hate you. Let that be the freedom that you need to do your work in the world.
Welcome to Free Birth Society. I'm Emilee Saldaya, and this is where we break the spell of medicalized birth, remember what's been forgotten, and rise together into our birthright to live, birth, and mother as sovereign women. Welcome to my most returned guest. Is that the most popular guest? I can't believe you skipped a whole season. You weren't on season 8, so we had to get you back as soon as possible in season 9.
I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Is this the first time we're pregnant at the same time?
I think it is, actually.
It's cute.
It's really cute.
So you're at the end of your first trimester, I think?
Yeah, pretty much.
You're very pregnant. You're peeing all the time. That's all I know.
It's real. It's a real live something in there.
Good. Are you feeling movement?
No.
Oh, okay. We know it's live because of other symptoms.
Well, maybe I am just a little bit, maybe just little tadpole flutters, but nothing big. How are you feeling? Because you are near the end.
I'm at the end. It's, I feel actually pretty good. I didn't talk to you about this. Oh, yes, I did. Of course I did. Around the festival time, I think I just needed to lay down. And now that I'm laying down, everything has resolved. And now I'm just in those like big contractions that are waking me up and keeping me up and knowing that it's nothing compared to what I'm about to open up to.
It's nothing. It's everything.
Do you have any just real quick advice?
I mean, quick, I'm not sure, and I don't ever offer advice, but I can certainly give you my honest opinion and perspective on anything.
As everyone's like, how are you preparing? How are you preparing? And I'm like, I'm not. My really simplified interest and prayer is to just see how deeply I can say yes. And I didn't do that last time. And so I guess I have some nervousness about my ability to do it because I don't think I've really done it yet. But it's like, that's it. That's all I have to say. Like, there isn't anything else. I don't care about supplies or affirmations or like blah, blah, blah. I don't have a playlist. And not that stuff can't help you. I'm not poo-pooing it. Just for me right now, that's all I can come up with is like, can I just say yes?
Well, there you go. You don't even need to read my book. Okay, that's it. You've just summed it up.
Well, your book's been next to my bed for a very long time, so I'm sure there's been some.
Yeah, I feel like you've read half of it, right?
Maybe I'll pick it up. I mean, I'm just laying around now. Laying around thinking. So yeah, maybe I'll finish it finally. Okay.
That'd be great. Say yes.
Say yes.
Surrender.
Yes, say yes. Okay, so we thought this would be cute and interesting. To the term or the title we came up was Thriving Under Pressure, a tell-all. Em and Yo, we have both had quite a year together in our friendship and working relationship, and then just for our own individual family and life reasons. It's been just a big year for both of us, and we're both with child and are the breadwinners to our families and figuring out all these big moves and literal moves, and then also moves within our own companies and so much change. And just, we've had a really big year, both of us.
Yeah, it has a big year. And of course, the year's not over yet,
Right.
but the first half of 2025 was, really brutal, I think, in many ways, but also expansive for me personally, and certainly for you and me and our shared projects.
And I think part of what has come up that is a very present conversation in our program MMI, which we'll talk about throughout this episode, is our students watching us navigate the public arena and all the really big pros and cons and lessons and challenges and impact that come with that. And a lot of what we're hearing from our students is fear about that and nervousness in their own lives, and in a much, at least as they are starting out, in a much smaller way, just of their community finding out that they're doing something radical, or their family finding out, kind of that first layer of the onion that needs to happen to, if you were to really make a profession out of working in the sovereign birth world. But I wanted to just kind of frame this episode around that, because I think that's really who we want to talk to as we navigate all these different questions and ideas we've come up to share in this episode. I wanted to name how many women are telling us that they're watching us, they're inspired by our work, they're following us, we've impacted them, they have a call to join the lineage of this work, and there is some real fear around navigating the public arena, putting themselves out there, having to obviously contend with their own desire for approval. And so for those of you listening, I'm sure you can relate to that. I think that is a normal place to navigate within all of us. Anything you want to piggyback on that to frame this hour?
No, I mean, I think that's really been the question all along. I think this is one of the primary barriers that women experience to what they perceive as being success or expansion, growth, what have you. And I think that there are also some new and different flavors to this dynamic in the world as it is now, with social media being such a strangely alienating yet prominent part of many people's lives, for better or worse. So yeah, it's a big deal. I hear this a lot.
So maybe we'll just get right into that. Let's just talk about let's just name the elephant in the room, of us stretching every year more and more into what comes with a larger reach and what comes with really trying to do anything cool. From what I can tell out there, it's been actually, I'll say it this way. I think you and I both, for the most part, after 2020 to 2022, where we experienced being targeted by select groups of people who were out to not really prove that we were white supremacists, because they never had any proof or offered anything really of any sustenance.
And we're not.
Obviously, but that's why I said, but they weren't really out to prove it, because no one actually ever tried to prove anything. They just called us that, right? It was the best takedown attempt of the times. And so that went on and was awful, of course, for a couple of years. And then things were kind of chill for us in the public arena from 2022 to maybe 2024. Things just felt pretty relaxed. And I'll speak for myself, but I think you will agree, we got kind of comfortable. We got a little comfortable. And so then as we experience, what is a really shocking development in the beginning of this year, to catch wind of a hate group that has formed about you and I, and really nasty, how would we quickly summarize it? Just nasty lies and opinions.
I would describe the short version as sort of being that a bunch of very deeply insecure, bitter, sad, lonely women who had put us on a pedestal and really projected onto us what I see now was a real desperate desire for a guru. Like they were looking for cult leaders. And they did a kind of 180 when they realized that we're both human to begin with. We're normal human women. And that we're also actually truly committed to self-responsibility, which I think for many people, if not most people, is an unbearable proposition. It's very difficult for people to really understand even what that means, let alone how to implement it. And these lonely, bitter women banded together and created, as you said, a little hate club so that they could feel a sense of validation and, ironically, community when they realized that they actually weren't going to get either of those things from us. And they made up a bunch of stories and told a bunch of lies, and a bunch of other women who I think were also to some degree lonely and isolated believed them. And ultimately, it was and is nothing, really just jealousy, the normal stuff, the stuff that anyone with any degree of impact or fame deals with, projection, essentially. And I was thinking about this whole experience in light of our conversation, and I realized that it was actually at the height of these threats and the betrayal in the springtime that I found out that I was pregnant. And of course, you're like in the midst of your third pregnancy. And there was definitely a moment there in the spring at the apex of this phenomenon of women jumping on this bandwagon of slander and vilification, where I know that we both felt so much doubt and really fear because, as you said, although we'd been through public smear campaigns before, this one had a different flavor and it was much more personal, and it was incredibly destabilizing for a moment there anyway, to have so many women who supposedly loved us, women who had been our students, women who had learned from us, women who'd been on part of our, again, supposedly private networks, women we thought were our close friends in some cases, women who were working for us, contractors, and having all these women turn against us and make up insane things about us was very destabilizing. But I think what was even more destabilizing was to have so many women say outright, I don't know if any of this is true, but the optics of having anything to do with you are no longer favorable, right? We even had women whom we had supported and loved and nurtured their careers say, I actually know that there's nothing to this. I've never had a negative experience with you, but again, the optics of having anything to do with you are no longer favorable. And
I can't be associated with you, even though I know it's a witch hunt that has no actual grounding. I know it's wild.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this is the definition of the mob. This concept of the mob mentality really is a form of mass psychosis. And what stunned me most of all, actually, is how susceptible we all are, because the contention, of course, and you and I have heard this so many times in so many different ways, and it's so nauseatingly ridiculous. The contention is that, how is it possible for this story that you're both villains and liars and grifters and thieves and baby killers and manipulators and cult leaders, how can it not be true if so many women are saying it, right? And there was a point even, and this is actually what really still affects me when I think about it, when I talk about it. There was a point when even I noticed a waver. Not only did I think for a minute, gosh, is there something about Emilee that I've actually missed here? Like, am I missing something? I mean, we've both been working together for 8 years, 9 years now, something like that. And I like to think that I know you pretty well, and God knows you're not perfect, and God knows we've had our differences, but is there something that I haven't figured out yet? And then I even found myself thinking that about myself. Like, am I a bad person? Like, have I missed something about myself? And it's transference on such a large scale and projection, and it's just so interesting because these women were so desperate for an authority. They were looking for the mommy or daddy that they never had. They're looking for a guru. And I think many of them really believed that we were the guru that they were looking for. And, this sort of epic reversal happens when they finally discover that we're actually not willing to play that part. We're not actually running the cult that you want this to be. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to give you a script. We're not going to bring you into our personal lives. We're not going to facilitate or enable your completely inappropriate levels of idealization and idolization. We're just the free birth, sovereign birth is not a cult. Self-responsibility is not actually a cult. It's not a club. It's not a religion. It's not a community either, actually. And, this I think is where we both really did go wrong. I no longer believe on any level that true community can be found online. There is no online sisterhood. That is not, I wanted to think so. And I did believe that what we were building was a kind of online sisterhood at one point.
Well, we were very naive. We wanted there to be. We wanted it to be true.
Of course, total delusion. A total delusion. We are running businesses like everyone else. And, the inversion happens because we're not actually willing to be what these lonely women wanted or felt that they needed us to be.
Well, I did let a lot of them into my personal life. I mean, I played a role in an attempted, community creation that you didn't, obviously. We have really different stories around that piece. So yeah, I did let a lot of unvetted, again, just so naive, so innocent. Like I've been really, really working a lot with this piece of me that's been a little hard to admit within myself as an 8 on the Enneagram. And just the eight actually really has this streak of innocence. I mean, you have it too as an 8 that is so pure and so naive and so sweet. And I see now how she justified lacking so much discernment, and carried what is ultimately quite a scarcity storyline it's unconscious, so it's not fully formed, but it was something like, I could only be friends with women who got the free birth thing. Like there was something that formed as I built out this, kind of business empire over the last 5 years, 6 years, where women, of course, were coming in droves to us, so inspired by what we were doing. And I was completely naive and ignorant to the implicit power dynamics of being the leader. And, it's just so, it's so cringe now looking back, because now that I've gone through what I've gone through and I've unpacked it and, worked with, my mentors and you and so much to just see what's here for me and how to avoid this from ever happening again. It seems really obvious. And this is, of course, part of our point of wanting to talk about this today is, if you're going to do anything in your life and try, you're going to fuck up. You're going to fail. And if you don't cultivate grace for yourself and softness for the younger part of you that didn't know, then you're never really going to evolve. I mean, obviously we do so many birth trauma debrief sessions with women around the world. And this is something I talk about a lot. It's like, if you must cultivate softness, acceptance, and forgiveness for the parts of you that didn't know. And it's so easy for us to villainize the younger part of us because now we know, but you can't separate them. I only know now because of my just epic, thread of failures. And yeah, and I don't have any shame about admitting that. I think that's part of what I wanted to get to in this episode with you is the real gifts that we've chosen to mine out of this. And anyone who's lived any amount of life, I think you could relate to the lessons and the gifts that come from being torn apart or hitting rock bottom, or, whatever the terms are of just really getting your ass kicked or failing, at a marriage or a business or a friendship. And I don't say that with like self-loathing at all. I'm in a way, I'm really proud of my failures, because it means that I've tried and I've taken enormous risk. I saw a meme online. I think it was from your boy that you like, Alex Hosey. Maybe. It might have been him, but I saw a meme recently that said, if you knew that you were 25 failures away from hitting your goals, how would that change your, mindset about it? And something like that. I might be butchering it a little bit, but I liked that. It's like such a requirement to accept and learn softness and grace for yourself as we stumble.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really has been truly an amazing learning experience, and the fruits have been incredibly positive. I can really see that now. It was a true winnowing, like a cleansing fire. The trash took itself out, the crazies outed themselves. And, political correctness aside, I am not actually interested personally in really having anything to do with dangerously unstable people.
It was tricky. The thing worth mentioning here, and you kind of hinted at it, that is worth saying as we frame this, is the reason it was a little tricky for us in the beginning was students came out as upset about this group, women who were close or supposedly close friends of mine, in particular one. Like there were people kind of close in our ex-employees, spun some really wild stuff, women within our memberships. And so it wasn't just an only complete anonymous cuckoo birds, that's the majority, but it gave it at least an initial sense of legitimacy because, because of not just the scope of it and how it was kind of hitting at every angle, but also that there were people supposedly, or not supposedly, there were people in our programs, there were people in our lives who were feeling impacted by this.
Yeah, and I mean, all of there's a lot of nuance here too, because it was destabilizing, as I mentioned before, for both of us and for the women in our circles. And so, it revealed the women who are solid and integral and who have discernment and judgment and intelligence, and it revealed who is weak and cowardly, as things always do of this kind. And it was just immensely clarifying. And, as you said, the women who are grounded and real and loyal are still here. And we now know exactly who they are. And just that alone is wonderful. But also, I should say, too, that there was, for me, and I know for you as well, just an incredible outpouring of support from like the public, from people who haven't necessarily worked closely with us, but who got wind of this ridiculous drama and who reached out and who saw immediately that these anonymous troll threads are absurd and ludicrous. And it's really been wonderful to be reminded of how many people are so grateful for the work we've done, which really has totally changed the landscape of birth. And that's the other thing too, right? Like, we're not selling courses on investing or gardening or other topics that are straightforward and relatively apolitical, although what's really apolitical? Nothing, I guess. But my point is that there actually isn't anything more political or spiritually significant or dangerous, frankly, than birth. And I don't mean dangerous on account of the, physical risk of dying during childbirth, whatever. That birth as a topic is birth choices and the transformational power of sovereign birth really is the most profoundly spiritual political issue of all time, of what it is to be human. I mean, it reveals everything. Birth is the origin. Birth is the apex of intimacy, our connection to God. And this is precisely why birth has had to be so desecrated and destroyed by the demonic power structures that seek to dismantle everything that is good, including the family, including everything that derives from the power of birth. And I was thinking also about these troll threads, and I mean, a couple of people actually came to me and suggested that like like maybe these are government operatives, yo. Like maybe this is more nefarious than it seems to be. Maybe this is COINTELPRO, yo. And I don't actually think so. But the point really is that there's so much like evil in the world and in everyone's available to all of us to tap into, that like the CIA, COINTELPRO, they don't need to get involved. Women are shitty enough to each other as it is, like that's really how it works. And on a deeper level, of course, this exposed our vulnerabilities and the mistakes we've made in our businesses, allowing women into our inner circles, which I did as well to a certain extent, on the basis of assumed good faith, is so naive. It's so naive, because birth work and women's work and the work that both you and I do around power and authority and leadership in the space of pregnancy, birth, and mothering, and just women's work in general, it's very, very emotional. It's very much from the heart. It's very, very tender. And it is inevitably tied to and inextricable from birth-related trauma. And I mean, you and I have been working in the area of birth-related trauma for, collective 30, 40 years.
Wait, but that's a lie too, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, all of it is so ridiculous. It's not an excuse. The fact that we're all burdened with traumas of various kinds, and I do think that's true, is not an excuse for anything. But on the other hand, I do see self-evidently that trauma, and specifically birth-related trauma, really does affect each and every one of us, whether from our own births or intergenerational reverberations of it. It is absolutely ubiquitous. And again, this is why we're doing the work that we do. And I think one of the primary forms of evidence for the ubiquity of unhealed birth-related trauma is arrested development and emotional and psychological dependencies of various kinds, and spiritual disintegration, and a tendency to succumb to mass psychosis. And this whole drama is a pure reflection of all of that. The systems of domination and control, and the urge to scapegoat. The whole drama that we have recently gone through is really an encapsulation of all of that. But the other gift that this has brought really to the forefront is how strong our friendship is. And we have gone through lots of ripples and stresses. And I mean, I love you so much, and I'm so grateful for you. And you are one of the most, I mean, among other things, brilliant, blah, 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 but loyal people that I've ever known. And I get all teary now because I'm pregnant, but I love you.
You only cry when you're pregnant.
Pretty much.
Bullshit.
So,
yeah, I love you too. I would like to respond to some of what you said and then get to sharing some of the gifts, because that is absolutely one of the gifts to be just so challenged, to be so questioned, to be so challenged, and for you and I to really work together to figure out what if this is real, what if this is serious, what if this is something we need to respond to, how is this impacting us, individually and together? Are we missing something? Like you said at the beginning, something that I think it was Teal Swan. Have you heard of her? I really like her from what I can tell, on her Instagram. But she said something in a reel a couple months ago. She said, "My haters teach me so much. I have these organized groups of trolls and haters, and they teach me so much because they give me the opportunity to work my tools." This is paraphrasing, not a quote by her, but I mean, I've heard many people in the public arena say things like this. They give me an opportunity to also see what I might be missing about myself, and it made me think about a Byron Katie quote or tool that she talks about of when people critique me, when I feel willingness to do it, I will ask myself, can I find it? When I get feedback, can I find it? And this is something that I've privately done a lot of work on with my mentor, where I'll bring her, some of these critiques or really horrific claims even, and in a state of willingness, should I be in that state at that particular time? We have done some interesting exploring of, how to alchemize critique and feedback in a way that feels true and helpful instead of total denial, which I think is the projection, because you and I are not like publicly interested in interacting with like a bad faith group, obviously. But that doesn't mean there hasn't been great reflection and dialogue and therapy in a way of using it as we do with all that is in our life. And so, yeah, a couple other things I wanted to mention before we move on. It seems that perhaps some people have misunderstood our interest in teaching what we know and teaching what we like to talk about and philosophize on and work on as some claim of mastery. And so let me clear the record here. Neither of us think for a moment that we are like masterful in practicing these tools that we share in our programs, or even bare minimum, the concept of self-responsibility. This is a goal. It is a return. It is a constant choice and effort. It's not like the default, if that makes sense. And so, I think it's hard for people who don't understand this stuff and who aren't practicing this stuff to grasp that. And so the projection is that we're on some like podium pretending like we've got it all figured out. I think of people of more maturity and higher consciousness, when they listen to our stuff, they totally get it. And they're really tracking with us being, it's one of our biggest positive feedbacks of our courses and of working closely with us, is how real we are and how transparent and honest we are about our flaws and immaturities and insecurities and issues. And that, I'm inspired by my mentors of that's how they've always taught, and they're so real. And I couldn't picture it any other way. But anyway, so this idea that like, just because we're teaching what we know in practice is not some claim of perfection or mastery, not at all. And then I guess I just want to say that I think it's just so great. I mean, it's not surprising, but it's so great that this group, and I guess other groups have spun off from there, and there's like satirical pages attempting with, it's like so bad. I wish it was funny, but there's these satirical, pages trying to make fun of us, and they're not even good, man. Like I wish they were at least funny. But anyway, it's so great that no one has even come close to presenting what the scam is, or what the cult is, or where the cult is. Like, is it my house? Is it that I have a women's event? I'm not clear. No one has been able to specify that. And I guess I just want to throw out, because I know many of you fans out there that just are gunning for me and Yo and are listening to this because you're going to take it back to these groups to talk about it. I just want to say with real sincerity, like, send me an email of a intelligent, thought out, logical explanation of what the scam is. And I'd be very, very curious to reflect on that and to see if there's any truth to it, the scam or the cult or both, because the pitch is, and it's very historically classic, to do this to people doing radical stuff, but the pitch, obviously, or the frame, is that Yo and I have no real credit. We've lied about our experience, about our intention, about our relationship. So we're liars and scammers and grifters is the big popular word these days. And we've lied, and we have somehow tricked people into giving us their money for them, to what, I guess, free birth or take a course or whatever. And so, yeah, I'm curious what the scam is. A scam is not like an unhappy customer. That's not what a scam is. A scam is fraudulent. Look it up, learn about what that term means, learn about the true markers of a cult, and then please email my company a real presentation of how you know this to be true. I'd be very, very curious to read it. But my point is that doesn't exist. It hasn't existed. And this group has like devolved into just making fun of us, which is so cringe. And I guess that's the last thing I want to say before we move on, is, Sister Morningstar gave me a great line when women emailed her trying to convince her to disassociate from me. She said, "I will pray for you." And I've been trying that on a lot. Just like, yeah, I will pray for you. I will pray for these women, because what that reveals is so sad. And it's so, here's a fact. No secure, mentally well, happy, whole woman participates in the tearing down of other women. Now, I want to admit something. I've gossiped in my IRL life, and that was an expression of me not being secure. Absolutely. 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 I would never do it online. That's so cringe. But anyway, so my point is, and I hope you all can really try this on and look at it in your own life beyond just, this current drama that you and I have referenced, because it shows up for all of us. Any time that we're acting in bad faith and not just holding our head up high and moving the fuck on, your willingness to co-create drama or talk shit about someone or tear someone apart, it only reveals your own inferiority. And that's part of the cringe, like the part of me that just loves women and feels protective of women and wants to see women thrive. I hear about this group where people will send me screenshots and I'm like, oh, don't you guys see how this makes you look? This is so pathetic. It's so cringe. And really, it's okay to not like me, but your commitment to scarcity and feeling less than me or yo, it just reveals your own issues and your own loneliness and your own lack of purpose. And I will pray for you. Are you one of the many women out there addicted to this podcast, wondering how on earth you can bring the good word of free birth to the women of your life and community? Well, I've got something for you. It's called the MatriBirth Mentor Institute, and we are enrolling now. This is the best of everything Yolanda and I have to offer. It's a 10-month high-touch mentorship program to bring you from the sidelines into the arena of the birth liberation movement. Yes, you can make a business out of this. Yes, women everywhere want this. And yes, you are allowed to explore this. In fact, if you feel the call to serve women in this way, that is your permission. So join us. This is an international training ground for women who are remembering what birth truly is and reclaiming what it means to serve with honor, clarity, devotion, all wrapped up in a container of deep self-work and business training. The curriculum is immersive and transformational, divided into 4 distinct quarters. First, we spend 11 weeks cultivating the tools of self-mastery, because you can only walk with women as deeply as you've walked with yourself. Then we move into 11 weeks of sovereign birth work training. We share all that we know to get you foundationally ready to stand in this work with a massive knowledge base. Next, we teach you how to teach, offering coaching frameworks, childbirth education models with examples of how we do it every step of the way. And finally, we bring it all together in a full birth business school, from your first nitty-gritty steps to launching a sustainable, aligned, purpose-driven practice. This is a proven, powerful, high-touch mentorship program. The women who are graduating are radically transformed. They're clear in their mission, rooted in their value, and making money by serving women from a place of authenticity. They're teaching sovereign childbirth classes, attending births outside the system, leading circles, and changing the cultural conversation. One woman, one family at a time. MatriBirth Mentor Institute is where independent birth coaching and education meets next-level business mentorship meets life-changing consciousness work. We only run this program once a year, so if you're feeling the pull, now's your time. A sovereign birth work career awaits you, and we're here to walk with you every step of the way. Check out www.matribirthmentorinstitute.com or freebirthsociety.com/MMI to learn more.
Yeah, I mean, it's not actually the clever, sophisticated flex to call someone a grifter who's running a business that maybe you don't like. Like, It just doesn't even, like, that's not what the word means. And thousands and thousands of women have benefited from our programs. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, they're not using the term correctly, and it is embarrassing. I mean, as you said, it's totally okay to dislike us. It's totally okay to not appreciate our energy, our vibe, to disagree with what we represent, to disagree with our values, to even think that the products that we've created are not good. So don't buy it. I mean, this is the free market, right? If you don't like something, then you don't have to buy it. We're not kidnapping anyone and taking their money and forcing them to sit through hours of our content. Furthermore, something that's actually quite unique about what you and I have both created together and separately is that our work is actually ours. It's actually the product of our lived experience. I actually do have almost 11 children. I actually have spent over 20 years working in the birth field, supporting other women, witnessing births, just immersed in the world of birth. My thoughts and ideas, the thoughts and ideas that I have turned into products that I sell in exchange for money from people who find value in them, are the work of my heart, my soul, my blood, sweat, tears. Like, it is actually a real thing that we've created together and separately. So yeah, it just doesn't really even make sense. And it is based on envy. And you said something a moment ago. It is so spiritually bereft and deeply, deeply sad to see women so committed to holding the bias of assuming bad faith in others.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of life is that you see a woman in the world creating something?
They hate themselves.
It's pure projection. Exactly.
Sad. And only an insecure, unwell woman would get off on the supposed fall. Like this story, it's like, LOL, they're going to be super bummed when they realize this isn't happening. But the story is that, like, everything's fallen apart, that there's like all these court cases. That's one that I've been sent, that I'm involved in. Like, I'm just getting sued left and right, and FBS is failing, and I'm fleeing the country. It's like as dramatic as possible. And like, okay, cool guys, none of it's true. And like, their one funnel into my life now is what? My AMAs on Instagram, for them to like try to dissect and figure out. Yeah, but the supposed, the story of the fall from grace of someone that you once saw as larger than life, or that positively impacted you, it's not, like you said it a long time ago, like the Venn diagram of unwell women and free birth. I mean, it has to be said, because this has so much to do with who I've stupidly let into my life. Like, I didn't know about the discernment of this Venn diagram.
Yeah, like, surprise, surprise, everybody. Having a free birth doesn't heal your psyche and your whole life. Like, it's not. It actually, no, not necessarily.
And that there's a thread of women who are drawn to the counterculture because they can't fit into mainstream culture. There's a lot of reasons for that, but one of those flavors is because they're not well, and they're angry at the world, and they hate themselves, and so they think they're going to find belonging in this radical niche that you and I have carved out. And then when they don't, for whatever reason, projected or literally whatever, then you find false sense of tribalism within the hate group against the very thing.
Exactly. I mean, we really made the mistake of assuming that most women are far, far more psychologically, emotionally, spiritually sound than many of them are, especially in this world.
That's been the saddest piece for me.
That's been really, really hard. Women are deeply, deeply broken, men and women, of course, but I'm at the point now where I actually think that probably women more so. And, that's going to be twisted as well, I'm sure, and we'll be called victim blamers and gaslighters. But
what's the new survivorship?
Oh, right. We have survivor bias. That's a really interesting one. That's super interesting. Yeah. I mean, not everything is gaslighting, and there's actually a difference between gaslighting someone versus standing your ground and pointing out that a person or a group of people are actually unstable. They're actually unstable or lying. That's just called maintaining a boundary, right? It's not the same thing.
Oh, I'm so confused. But like, again, women who are thriving aren't spending their time in hate groups. And so it's already just such a bottom of the barrel consciousness. Oh, I mean, I feel really, really sad.
It's really
sad. Sad thing. And learn from it, see what's here for us, and move the fuck on, because that shit is like, it's like, I'm picturing in Bali, when you get a pedicure, you can choose to put your feet in a little fish tank where the fish just chew off your dead skin. It's disgusting. But I've done it. And that's what it makes me think of, just these little like gross like gnats. But there's still a value there. And of course, these are real human, people who are choosing to spend their time this way. So it says so much. And anyway, so if some of you are listening, of course, so you can report back to your clubs, and just bringing you a lot of love. And please don't take our programs. And no, we won't give you a refund. And just like, best of luck. And you deserve to be outside and like meet the people around you, and to feel happy. And yeah, I wish you the best. So I want to ask you, Yo, to keep going with this conversation. What is it like for you now, knowing that we have, or I'll just say you, I mean, it's us, but knowing that you have troll groups and that you have obsessed fans, inverse of fan, but I'm going to call them fans because they are obsessed with you. Yeah. What's it like for you to put out your work, to put out your newsletter, put out your, reels and your content, and to run a membership, and to show up in the public arena with a real understanding that there are a committed group of women that are just waiting for the opportunity to make fun of you and to tear whatever it is that you're putting out apart? What is that like for you, and how do you continue to function? Because just one more quick thing before you answer. I saw this thing online recently. It was a quote by Scarlett Johansson, that beautiful actress. She said, I can't have social media. My ego is way too fragile, and I am way too, I care way too much about what people think to be online. I can't do it. And I said to Johnny, like, whoa, how pathetic. It sounds totally pathetic. And I mean, I appreciate her honesty, but wow, it just kind of struck me. And I mentioned it to him, and he was like, Emilee, I think most people feel that way. And I was like, wow, okay. Wow. So anyway, yeah, how is it for you, and how do you keep finding what is it that you keep finding? Is it your own narcissism and delusion that they claim it is? What is it? Tell me about that.
Well, I don't have a soul, and I am a totally ego-driven, complete narcissist, and no emotions, just no emotions at all.
The narcissists are so insecure.
No, I'm actually kidding. I do have a soul, and I'm not a narcissist. And I would say that I probably fall a little bit between you and Scarlett Johansson, in that I certainly have nothing to do with, I've never visited the groups. I don't look at it. I don't want to know about it. Lots of people send me stuff, and I don't want to see that.
But you have not looked.
I have not looked. I do not look. I will not look. I'm not interested. But overall, I'm aware of it, because again, like it's been it's been brought into my awareness, whether I like it or not. But I will say that knowing that exists, and knowing the depth of obsession, and I'm not even that, we're not even that famous, okay? This is not this isn't the big time. But what this whole experience has done for me, definitely, is it's been immensely freeing. And it has given me so much more courage. Since all this stuff started, I've been putting out satire reels and tons of content, and I'm launching new programs, and I actually feel so much more imbued with the confidence and determination to just allow it all to be real. I'm totally who I am. the version of who I am online. And there's a lot of nuance there actually too, because I get accused all the time of like, you just have no shame. You just sell every aspect of your life, don't you? And I definitely, definitely don't. I'm actually a very, very private person. I'm an introvert. I do not share every corner of my life, not by a long shot.
When you could be possible.
I mean, it's not even possible to do that. But I'm also like, I have quite strong boundaries. I don't engage in a lot of the ways that I think would make someone more vulnerable. So that's been another aspect of this. It's really allowed me to see, just to refine and hone how I operate online. But it has been so, so freeing. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter your level of fame. There will always be people who hate you and are obsessed with you, whoever you are. And so let that be the freedom that you need to do your work in the world. And this has also really brought home to me how true and how grounded I am in the work that I'm doing, how purposeful my life is, how clear I am in my mission. I know with unwavering truth that what I'm bringing to the world is incredibly important and of so much value, and that the work I do is in devotion to mothers, babies, and humanity, whether they appreciate it or not. It's not of my concern.
Well, I'm getting this image of like, you and I individually and together are in this incredible like bowl of, there's so much good happening and there's so much validation and appreciation coming back to us individually and for our shared collaborations. And so that's like what matters, of course. And that is the true meat of the pie or whatever. And then on the outskirts, there's these fish eating the dead skin off your feet or the gnats or whatever. But it's not the main bread and butter at all. Brene Brown has some quote, I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, she said something in her HBO special a long time ago that always stuck with me about the critiques or the critics. She has learned to let them fall at her feet and to keep her aura strong and well and on purpose. And she absolutely cares what some people think. The people who she's in relationship with, the people in good faith. And I feel the exact same way, as I'm sure you do too. Like I care what you think about what I'm doing in the world. I care what my mentors think. I care what my elders think. I care what my husband thinks, my close friends, of course, because there's good faith there, right? And so anyway, I think that's an important thing to presence, is those of you who are watching us who are freaked out because you've seen some of the nastiness out there, don't forget to see the larger picture, that the nastiness is just this kind of outer layer, but what's really happening is so rich and so abundant and just so beautiful, and no one can take that. If Yo and I were only being met with everyone that bought our stuff hated us and wanted and like, oh my gosh, like our businesses would not continue to flourish. Duh, it wouldn't work. The very fact that you and I, year after year, continue to make more money than the last year, continue to have more impact, more clients, more students, it speaks for itself, which is why we've never had any interest in defending, some of these insane claims, because you can just look with your eyes and just see, the beauty that is around us. So I'm going to just keep asking you some questions. Anything else about that of just, I heard you say the freedom. I think that's such an important thing to say. We've been talking about this for years of like, what does it mean to be uncancelable, and the freedom that comes when you get past this hump that so many women are still at of, what if the world doesn't like me? What if these people don't like me? And once you experience people not like you and experience all that comes with that, and untangle it and find yourself in it, right? Like Scarlett Johansson not being able to be online because she would be so impacted by what strangers would say about her, that is crazy to me, and yeah, I mean, no shade on Scarlett Johansson, but damn, I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I wasn't constantly returning to who I am and what I'm doing and feeling really good about it and seeing my impact and seeing my healthy, thriving relationships all around me. And we cannot be swayed from that. We cannot be swayed. It's so beautiful. And yeah, so I agree. Having critics and people really out to get us. I also just want to piggyback another thing it's given other than freedom is an even bigger call to accountability. Like I really got to be aligned with what I say, because it's going to get recorded and shared and taken and moved around. And I at first I was a little intimidated by that. And now I'm really like, yeah, that calls me into such a higher level of responsibility of how I show up that I'm super here for.
Totally. And actually, it really was a relief to discover that there isn't anything in any of this. And ultimately what was reinforced to me is yeah, no, we're good. We're solid. Everything we're doing is for the good. But you're right. Yeah, it has actually made me real. I mean, I've been saying this for years. I'm very aware of this, but the experience recently has brought this into a kind of a new dimension of awareness that really everything that is done, said, texted online is not private whatsoever. Not at all. And there's some interesting paradoxes in this too. The more famous I could become. And again, I know full well in the grand scheme that I'm relatively not anything.
Yeah, but you don't need to demean it, because it is, I would describe fame as a one-way relationship. And you have a one-way relationship with over 100,000 people, you have a one-way relationship with these troll groups, or with the women who you inspire all around the world. So that is what fame is. Whether it's millions or thousands, I don't really care.
You're right. And actually, another part of this too is that this whole experience has allowed me to toy, at least, with the idea of really blowing up. What could that look like? Can I handle the money? Can I handle the influence? Is an interesting term that needs to be unpacked, I think, elsewhere. But can I handle the incredible expansion of that? And I realize that it is true that I think for me, more and more, the greatest commodity is anonymity. But I'm also realizing that really high impact fame can actually facilitate deeper forms of anonymity in a way. I mean, money in itself is an incredible buffer and a source of security, of course. But also, the more that people believe they know you, the more it is that who you are really becomes obscured. No one knows who I am. People think that they know us, and you're right. This is what this sort of one way. But that's also such an interesting dynamic as well, because I think one of the reasons that I and you have the capacity for this kind of presence in the world is that we don't actually care what other people are doing. There's no one online. I was thinking about this the other day. There is no one who is famous or online that I follow or care about whatsoever. The people that I care about are the real people in my life that I have true relationships with. And so this is a very, and that groundedness is what makes us able to be these public figures. So it's very interesting. And this kind of automatically produces a kind of parallel life, which I think is inevitable. The capacity to hold is inevitable for anyone who is willing to have this kind of presence. And these are some of the things that we talk about, dissect, and teach in our programs like MMI, because there are so many women who have incredible gifts that should be shared with the world. And the barrier to them actually sharing those gifts is this tension and fear and all of the friction that's involved in these topics.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think, Johnny and I will have talked about this in our episode a lot, so I won't do it too much here. But the biggest piece for me that has come out of this that I'm so grateful for is, well, you just pointed to it. I realized through the spring that I was not prepared spiritually, energetically, financially, like in every way. I was not prepared for, or I am not yet prepared for the level of notoriety that I think is coming for me, in time. And there's so much behind the scenes, going on, and opportunities opening up that, I don't talk about in the public arena yet because it's not time. And so, man, I was at one point like on my fucking knees about it. Like, thank you, God, for showing me this. Truly and sincerely, such real appreciation. Real, I mean, which might be hard to believe because, yeah, it sucks for people to talk shit about you, but the levels of threat and attempted takedown from just the small, little pond we're in right now really showed me not how not together my stuff was. My stuff's actually quite together, but like what could happen next. And so, we being doxxed, right? Like getting doxxed, which is not the first time, but, having trolls send me hate threats and death threats with my address on it, people pulling up old like legal documents and researching stuff with my address and like zooming in on things to find information from the background and creating freaking fake screenshots, like so many things that just hadn't happened yet at that level, came forth this spring that really showed me, whoa, I have just been an open book. I have had no energetic or literal like privacy barriers. Pretty much if you wanted to be my friend and be like involved in this, I was down, which is like, oh my God, so cringe, so done with that. But so naive. And again, just like I said at the beginning, there's such a younger part of me who was allowing friends, supposed friends into my life, not from the leader archetype, that's in me and blooming in me. And of course, like we're the first to admit, to each other and our students and everyone, like we're just learning how to do all of this. I've never had this level of success or impact or fans or people wanting to be near me. And I just assumed good faith like a fucking idiot. I just assumed it, and that's my default with people until it's not. But anyway, so our call towards growing the fuck up and becoming better leaders, admitting to each other how confused we've been or how much we've confused social and professional, which is so easy to do in the birth world. I mean, we're women, we're mothers. Like, of course we want friends. Of course we want community. Of course we want fellow sisters walking with us in this work. And there's just been a really very real learning curve and not doing it that great in a million different scenarios. But always doing our best. I can absolutely say that. We have always taken our stuff very seriously, and any student that wanted to talk and just like really caring very much about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And of course, having tons of failings and flaws within it because we're learning how to hold this space as we always will be. Anyway, so yeah, I think we can kind of close out that topic, but I also just want to express such sincere appreciation to you and how much your solidarity does for me in my life, and you and I have, we talk about this every now and then that we like forget. we'll kind of lose track of how far out on the edge we're holding this torch for the world because it's so normal for us, and our friends all live this way and our mentors live this way, and it's just, this is just so normal. And then we get kind of bitch slapped by, culture or whatever, these different scenarios, or upset students who really did not understand what we were trying to deliver on the sales page or whatever it is. And you and I just having such a good faith commitment with each other in the whirlwind of what this radical, torch holding means, and trying to be good, ethical business women and be real and loving and honest, and also have to be so firm and so boundaried and being called so many things. I mean, it's just so wild, being so misunderstood. And then here you and I consistently are just like the steady, we're steady, That doesn't mean we haven't had our stuff, but the stuff is not an issue because we're steady. And obviously both of us we're very clear on what, like the groundedness our friendship gives the other in our lives. And then the fact that we actually work together is like freaking, icing on the cake, and such an expression of that groundedness, So yeah, it's just you and Sister Morningstar in the last couple of years, just how her solidarity for us and with us has both just been these really critical anchors for me to continue. Let's talk about some other fun stuff now that we've thoroughly fleshed that out. Okay, I think we should also name the rebrand of MMI as the segue here because it is connected very much. And I think it's interesting. And if you are one of the many women considering our long form, high touch program, it's called the MatriBirth Mentor Institute. And it really blossomed out of the success of Yo and I's first live program together for birth workers, which is called the Radical Birthkeeper School. And we've played with that since 2020 is when it came out. Had about 1,000 women graduate from that program all over the world. And one of the biggest things we learned from that program was there's two types of women that are coming into this sovereign birth work world, one of which is still perhaps working a normal job or has young kids at home and they want to dip their toe in. They're curious, they want to be a part of this, but their interest in, doing it as a full-on business is quite small. And so, or at least for now. And so we have, over the many evolutions of the Radical Birthkeeper School, decided that it's, at least for now, resting state is going to be a self-study. We're using the term sometimes little sister program for the woman who wants to get familiar and do this at her own pace. Yeah. And at a much lower investment, obviously. And so that's what that program will be relaunched as at some point in the near future. And then what we also learned was that there's this other group of women who were very, very called to know and work with and support and just love taking under our wing, of women who are like, let's go, like, give it all to me. I want to know all the stuff. I want the tools. I want all the, sovereign birth work information, but I also want the business handholding. I want to know how to teach women or how to hold women in birth trauma debriefs, like the whole shebang. And so we felt this call for a while with RBK that it was just too fast. And yeah, it was like too quick. And women were feeling a little whiplashed. And we were sending them out into the world and they needed more. They needed more long-term debriefing and support. So that's where MMI got created. At the time that this episode is out, we will have just finished its first year. It was a wild success. It was so awesome. It's been so cool to see the women, what they do and how they process and the changes they've made. And many of them are actually attending sovereign birth from the support of this program. They've launched their websites, or they've kept it more private. And maybe they themselves had free births and maybe they themselves have focused on healing. Women have made really big changes while under our wing this year. And so we learned a lot from the first year. We're just tweaking a little bit of stuff. We're actually not changing that much. We're very excited to do it again with a new round of women. And so, yeah, what would you like to share about it? I mean, I have specific questions like what's different about it now. If you want to mention the rebrand.
Yeah, I do want to say that part of the nucleus of the decision to rebrand MMI, it's now the MatriBirth Mentor Institute, as you mentioned, is really the fact that we, I think, have finally come to terms with midwifery, finally, with come to terms with the term midwifery or midwife having been entirely, and I think probably at this point, this stage anyway, irrevocably for this era, appropriated not just by the state, but by the media to signify a medicalized birth. And I think, as always, we overestimated the capacity of most people to understand this concept of freedom and personal responsibility again. And our intention initially was to teach what we understand to be true midwifery, sovereign midwifery, emancipated midwifery. But that idea itself, for most people at this point, is a source of total cognitive dissonance. It's irreconcilable for most people from the medical realm, because the very idea of midwifery itself has been so folded into the medical paradigm. It's totally enmeshed with medical consciousness. And so we had some students come into the first iteration of MMI, and they were basically outraged that we were not teaching medical midwifery. And we sort of had to say, well, yeah, that's the whole point here. We are teaching what we understand to be sovereign midwifery, which is intrinsically not medical, but that became a real source of confusion. And so we sat down and we realized that in using the term midwife at all, we're trying to, in some ways, like catch a tidal wave that's already broken. Like, the term midwifery is done. It's over. The medical industrial complex pretty much owns it completely. And so that's fine.
And owns you. Like, that's the other thing. It like owns your brain. You listen.
Absolutely.
You don't even realize how
Absolutely.
much that's what was our blind spot was. I know these women saw the sales page and we never made it, but they still wanted to understand how to put your hands in a woman for shoulder dystocia. Like they still wanted medical perspective, even though they didn't realize that's what they were wanting. It was so complicated. And yeah, so sorry I interrupted you, but we just realized, like, we gotta just let this word go.
We've got to let it go. And furthermore, the program itself, MMI, it's really focused on teaching women the tools to serve mothers and babies throughout all of the seasons of motherhood, whether during pregnancy or birth or postpartum and beyond. And so we wanted the language to reflect that. Women want to create thriving, sustainable businesses in the birth world and in birth adjacent work. And that area is way more future-proof than I think any other profession. And in this era of increasing AI takeover, I think it's really going to be those businesses that are focused on what it is to be human and how it is to be human and the deepest human connections, which, of course, birth is the source of. And women are coming into this work wanting the tools to create businesses that are actually going to work. And so I think more than ever, success in this area is really going to rely on our capacity to develop the ability to communicate our thoughts and ideas effectively and to bring across our humanity and the essence of who we are and our energetic imprint and our sentience. Sentience is what the world is all about. It's what being human is all about. And I think this is going to be more important than ever before. And this is exactly the emphasis that we're bringing to MMI, the MatriBirth Mentor Institute. It's really a melding of a real understanding of the physiology, psychology, and spiritual dimensions of birth, which very, very few people actually understand, but which you and I both do. And we do have real lived experience of motherhood and birth support, collective 40 years of it. And MatriBirth offers all of that. But what's also so unique about MatriBirth is that it also offers a full childbirth education framework and suite of teaching tools. So our students leave the program with a complete childbirth education curriculum, the framework of which is theirs to use and to translate and to make their own. But the entire curriculum, which you and I wrote and developed, is for our students, and it makes teaching highly accessible, highly intuitive, effective. And it's such an amazing program. It's a truly transformational sovereign education program, which is straightforward and accessible. And it can be very easily translated to the online space, to in-person group classes, couples sessions, and also one-on-ones, both online and in person. So just this aspect of the program is so, so powerful for anyone who wants to create a successful, sustainable birth-related business. We also have an entire module on birth-related trauma coaching. And this actually might be the section of MMI that I'm maybe most excited by, although I love every part of it, because birth-related trauma, as I mentioned before, is this issue that pervades every aspect of our society. It's knit through every culture. It's present in every corner of the world. And every single human being, as I said before, is to some extent carrying birth-related trauma. And so there's just so much work to be done in this field, and an entire quarter of MMI is dedicated to deconstructing birth-related trauma, teaching our students how to be really, really effective birth-related trauma coaches. And several of our students of this round of MMI, it's been so interesting to see that several students entered the program thinking they were going to focus on in-person birth work and realized that actually their passion lies in birth-related trauma coaching or childbirth education.
It's so versatile.
So versatile, yeah. And the flip side has happened too. Women who've entered the program thinking they're going to be doing online work and have discovered that actually they want to focus their businesses on in-person networking and in-person birth work. And so, it's a program for every woman who, as you said, is actually feeling the drive to make this her life's work. And it's just, it's an amazing program. And we share everything that we have a full business module as well. And we share everything that we've done, you and I, to create effective, thriving businesses in this new era of digitized everything. And I think what's most significant about the business portion and all parts of it too, is really that we are teaching women how to access their voice, how to speak their truth, how to move through these layers of self-sabotage and fear and cowardice, which we all deal with to some extent, and to really stand out in a world that is awash with machines, copycats, phonies, fakers, nonsense purveyors, plagiarists. And the truth is there is a lot of challenge out there right now. There are challenges, but I also know that it has never been easier to start a business that's profitable and that also is in true service to the good. There is so much junk out there, so much mindless consumption. But what really keeps me inspired and driven and galvanized in this work is that I know that we're doing, that this is so, so important. I know that what we're doing is so profoundly true. And I know that there are so many women out there who feel that fire and sense of drive and who have so much to offer and who just struggle to access their voice and to put together the pieces that could very, very easily be translated into thriving businesses that are so heart-centered.
Right. Like we do want to teach you the boring, weird business stuff that no one has ever explained to you. Like we just had a student yesterday posting in the forum about so I have Gmail, do I do business or G Suite? And how does that turn into a funnel and a sequence? And, oh my gosh, it's just the basics. Like, why would you know this stuff without someone having first told you? And we are both several years deep into this online business stuff. And so it's someone needs to teach you the nitty gritty. And that is an important piece to this because it's actually really, really, really easy. But so much of this is also why I love the programs you and I do together, is so much of what is woven into the foundation is not the intellectual content. It's meeting yourself and actually having the tools and feedback and reflection and space to grow up and to own your insecurities and see how that's a barrier sometimes, or your limited thoughts. So many women enter this program thinking, who the heck would ever hire me? Who am I to want to do this work? And I'm calling on any woman who sees what Yo and I are doing in our unique flavors to join us. And we're just so here with an open heart and open mind to show you what we've learned, because we don't want to be alone holding the holding the torch on this amazing revolution that's occurring. And women are free birthing in droves nowadays, and they are looking for mentors and coaches and, more content, more stories, more guidance. Yeah. And maybe that's another piece of the rebrand was at first we thought we were really focusing on this idea of midwifery and attending. And then we've through our own constant evolution with free birth and with attending, we've really learned that we want to help the women that come after us broaden their perspective on how do I say this? Like, attending is probably inevitable. If you're in this work, you will be asked to attend, and that's so beautiful, but that doesn't really need to be the focus. And actually, there's a lot of fruit to supporting women to free birth, which was another very real evolution of this program for us that we're really excited about, because we both have very much come to understand that free birth is the only real way to take responsibility for your birth. And women are hungry for it. They really are. And our success is an expression of what is here and available. And so it's so exciting. It's just so exciting. It's also worth mentioning the community aspect. While, yes, Yo said there's no such thing as online community, totally agree. The community that spins out of this network is very real. I just woke up to a text. I meant to send it to you, Yo, but I forgot, from two women who are in England, who are in MMI, who have become very, very good friends. I'll send it to you after this. It's so cute. And they linked up with an RBK graduate who has a baby, and they've created a circle together and have more and more women coming. And that's real, that is happening. Go ahead.
Totally. And actually, we've seen so much of that result from the work that we're doing online and that we have done online for years. And so I would totally agree. I think it's very important to make that distinction that online spaces cannot be community, but online spaces can certainly facilitate the formation of real community in the world. And that's a really important thing to note. Thank you.
And then another thing worth mentioning, it's a large investment for a selfish reason, but many women come to this program just for their own interest. I'm thinking of one woman who just sent us in a video testimonial, and she just said, I'm planning my FBAC, my free birth after C-section, and I don't know anyone in this realm. So I just wanted to be with other women of this consciousness for the year. And I mean, that's very real. I think a lot of women came to MMI to rewrite their own trauma stories, which they've done. So many women have birthed in power through this year. And so on the one hand, it's a lot of money for your own personal development. And yet your personal development is actually at the absolute core of anything you're going to do. And so you can't really separate them, especially in this work. If you were going to go sell cars or vacuums, you could probably compartmentalize it. But when you are called to show up in this inside out, way as a mature, wise woman in your community, you got to get your shit straight. And so that could absolutely be your motivation, as it has been for many women. I was also giggling when you were talking, remembering that one of the women that left the program very upset about, all this confusion, one of her critiques was, in the email to us, she said, or maybe it was on one of the troll groups. I don't know where I saw it, but she said something like, it was just so annoying. After all the lessons, the general message was, now go out and do it. And I told Sister Morningstar that at the festival. I was like, yeah, this woman was pissed that we kept saying, now go out and do it. And she was like, what training doesn't end with that message? I was like, yeah, I know. I'm not sure, but that really bothered this person. Because we don't have any golden keys to get you making six figures with no experience, my friends. You've got to go out and do it. We have a pretty obvious formula and recipe that we are seeing tons of women replicate in their own unique ways and absolutely build successful businesses. This is a time where women are at such a deficit of the cultural amnesia and the trauma and wanting better, and so few people are stepping into this gap and offering a better way. I mean, it's so here for all of us to have and to support each other to make happen, which is really at the core of our interest of mentoring women, to really go out and do the thing. That should just be our new tagline, so there's no confusion. There's a certain woman that's called to MMI, not just to make money, but to tell the truth, to help lead this movement, to live it without compromise. What does she need to hear from you right now? And then the follow-up is, how does allyship between women really work, especially in a co-creative high-stakes space like MMI? What have you learned about holding power together?
I would say to her that I really want her to know that if she feels any inkling of a call to take a place of leadership in the world of birth, that itself is the sign that she possesses a unique form of brilliance and a gift that can benefit the world and a totally unique story. You and I are actually really not special. We get frustrated with the dumbness and stupidity and foolishness out there, not because we think we're better than anyone else is, but because we know we're not. We know we're not. We're not geniuses. I know absolutely that every single human being, if they could get out of their own way and just muster up the courage to set aside the distractions and to do the thing that is true and real, and to say the thing that's true and real, that they would find themselves in a state of inspiration and grace and flow. I wish that more women understood that they have so much more power and freedom than they realize they do. And that true freedom comes from not just freedom, but success comes from being aware of what and who it is that we're disciplined to, and being aware of what and to whom we are obedient to, because we are all highly, highly disciplined and super obedient. The question is, to what and to whom, right? I mean, you may think that you lack discipline, but it's actually just that you're highly disciplined to watching Netflix and eating bonbons. And, this is such a powerful realization. But if you feel called to birth work to any extent, that means that you have something to give. And it is rooted in the true experience that you've already had. It's rooted in your true experience. And more of that inspiration comes from, just as you said, actually showing up and doing the work and combining being present in your community and in your life with translating those stories and experiences to the online space. And this is something that's actually also very important and that we really emphasize in MMI. There are people who have built surface level businesses through memes and repetition and parroting and AI and plagiarism, but that's not actually going to be sustainable over the long term at all. Anything that's real, anything that is going to command real presence and create real change in the world always has to be rooted in nature, life, the body, embodiment, and lived experience.
Yeah, and the call is your permission. Such a big piece too, right? That women come, with this, who am I to do this? It's like, well, you just invested in this program. Like, your call to do this is so alive. What more permission do you need? My goodness. It's beautiful. We are going to be offering a couple of live classes, spaces with us throughout the rest of the month. We're playing with even calling the series Grift or Grifter. It will be an acronym, but if you can't play with this shit, you're going to be Scarlett Johansson, you know?
It's got to be Grift. I love it. I absolutely
love it too.
love it.
Anyway, so we'll be offering some to the public, workshops to learn a bit more about us and what it means to do this work. And then we're also going to be offering a MMI graduate open house kind of roundtable at the end of August, so you can really come grill us about the program before you make the dive, talk to the graduates. Yeah, so stay tuned for all of that. Thank you, and I love you, and I hope to have you back to not talk about wild mothering. I asked Yo if she'd come on to cover wild mothering, and she was like, "What even is wild mothering? I have nothing to say." I was like, "Perfect, let's do an episode on."
That's not true. It's more the term wild mothering. I'd actually love to talk with you about mothering.
Yeah,
maybe instinctive mothering, perhaps, or like just.
I thought that you coined that.
I did, but it's another one of those terms that's been so twisted, it's been so twisted. And the truth is, of course, yes, that none of us are actually wild. I get that. But I would actually love to talk about what can we call it?
Well, like trusting the spontaneous healing of our children. I mean,
I'd love to
are a true inspiration of how wide your capacity is to hold that.
I would love to talk about mothering and healing and how we can support our children in their healing cycles. That would be great.
Which, and in there is a 3-hour workshop.
That's right. Yes. Oh, we didn't even touch on the amazing spotlight teachers that we have in MMI. But
yeah,
I think that was good.
It's nice to air some of this out with you and that, we both are feeling quite processed now that it's July at the time of this recording. And I'm feeling really vitalized by our students and the end of the program. And I'm so proud of it. And you can see it in the results of just how epic everyone is and how stoked they are. And we're so here for the lessons and the up level, which is damn near constant.
It is off continuous graduations. Yeah.
All right. Love you.
Love you too.
All right, women, I hope you enjoyed the show today. You can support this podcast by donating to it through the link in the show notes below. And of course, leaving an awesome review on whatever platform you listen on. The more reviews, the more visibility the show gets. So let's spread the good word of free birth. Don't forget, you can watch all of my podcast interviews on YouTube and see the women as they tell their birth and power stories. And you will also find our viral free birth collection of epic raw birth videos on our YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribed. We always have a lot going on at Free Birth Society, and you can find out about all of it at freebirthsociety.com. And I am at Free Birth Society on Instagram. Please opt into my newsletter below so that you don't miss a thing. We offer courses on free birth, sovereign birth work, as well as one-on-one coaching, women's retreats, so much. Our exclusive private vetted membership, The Lighthouse, is definitely something to check out if you are looking for a community of wise sisters to get guidance from and to meet in real life. Together we rise, sisters. We must speak our stories fully, claim our lives, and support one another. This is the living revolution, and I am so grateful to be in it with all of you. Till next time.